Hello and welcome to the Excitech BIM 360 surgery. This is surgery number 6. And today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to explore the workflows between Revit, PowerBI and BIM 360. So I'm going to go through a series of different workflows to get data in and out of Revit via 360 and how we can represent and use this data. So I'm going to start by jumping into a Revit model. So this is a structural frame that I've sort of created, and we're going to introduce how we can get this information out of Revit into BIM 360. But I'm not going to do it the normal method where we would save this Revit model either to 360 as a collaborative model or via a cloud model. What I'm going to do is look at Excitech's very own Excitech toolkit, and there is a brilliant little tool in here called BIM Query. So don't let the name think that it's querying the model to find out information. And so what it really can do is it can export information really quickly out to Excel. What I'm going to do is take that Excel data, save it in 360, utilize the information in Power BI, and then represent it in 360 via the custom dashboards. So first things first, very quick overview. Revit model. I'm simply going to select BIM Query. So for those of you that have seen this before, it's pretty simple. For those of you that haven't, contact us. We can do an even more in detail review of it, and there's a webinar coming up in the next few weeks which goes through all the tools that are part of the toolkit, but I'm not going to get bogged down too much on it. I'm going to quickly look at the preset menu. So this comes already preloaded with the ability to gather data direct out of the Revit model, and I'm going to quickly look at structural columns. Once I click it, you'll see how quick that is to collate the information direct out of Revit straight into the BIM query. Now this works like standard Excel. You can click into the cells, you can edit, and you can change the information. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the file section, and you can see that I can save the XLS or I can open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this file directly into 360. So I'm going to click Save XLS. I'm going to browse via my desktop connector to 360, connect to my hub. I'm going to choose this project. I'm going to click into project files, and I can create a new folder, and I'm going to call this the surgery, and that will create a new folder. Click into that folder, and then I'm just going to call this Excel file the column info. And once I click save, that will take the BIM query direct out of Revit and save an Excel file direct in 360. So when that's saving, I'm going to click in to 360. I'm going to refresh the page. Because I'm doing this all live, it may take a second or two just for 360 to catch up with me. You'll see that the folder has been created, so surgery is now there, and you'll now see that I've got column info version 1. Now a couple of weeks ago, if you followed my surgery number 4, I think it was, the guys at Autodesk introduced the ability to start editing Office 365 documents. So we can utilize that technology to view this file. So I can click into column info, and you will see that it opens in Excel Online. And if I edit that in the browser, we should start to see the information come through out of the BIM query document. So I think I've just done this a little bit early, so the information is still coming through. So you can see all the structural column types is coming through, where we've got all the information that we need. So you can see you've got all the analytical data, material data. So if I just return to 360, you will see that that information is still present. So I'm returning back to the online version, and then I can close out of the document, and you can see there we are, still on version 1. Now the beauty of the information within 360 here is that I can click into it again and I can make changes to that document. So if we look under structural column types, you will see that I see all the information, and if I scroll along and I find, let's say we look at, what will we look at? We'll look at the, if we can find the coating of the columns. So what I really want is the information to appear in structural columns. So I'm just going to rerun that. I am doing it all live, so I'm just going to go back to Revit, rerun the BIM query, and make sure that so there's my structural columns, the information is there. Let's save the document, and I'm going to call this column info 2, and then I save my file again. And then I can close my BIM query, go to 360 and just refresh my page. And just refresh it again. Obviously I'm doing it live, so there is a little bit of a time to process the documentation. So there's column info 2. And there I have my structural column information. So what I can do in here, if I wish, is that I can have people edit this documentation. So let's say you can see that the structural coating is CAS, which is coating as specified. If I go back and check my Revit model, select a column, you will see that the coating is as specified. Now the big thing about the BIM query is that I can write data back into the model. So what I could do is that I could make a change to some of the information within that Excel file. So let's say we look at this and we set that to galvanized, and we set that across all the columns. Now two things are going to happen. One, it's going to update the spreadsheet, but because it's 360, the version information of that file will also now update. You will now see that it will take a second or two to process. If we select the surgery folder, you'll see that straight away my column information 2 is now set to version 2. So that change has been recorded, and I can then reload this document back into Revit. So because it's still processing in the background, if I go to BIM query, what I can do is if I go open the Excel file, and if I just turn on the version label, what I want to appear is version label 2. It needs to appear there because it's still processing the change. Just to speed it up for the demo, I'm just going to download this document, and I'll just download it direct onto my desktop, so it'll just be a little bit quicker. So there's my updated file, just to check it that it has got the galvanized coating change on it. You can see there it is. So if I go back to Revit and I open that file, so I just take that from here, you will see that it now has the galvanized coating, and then you can see we've got action buttons. So I've got actions where I can take that change and I can apply it direct back to the Revit model. So the workflow that we could have here is that we could have the BIM query export all the information out onto 365, have somebody like a project manager update information, just check for information that may be missing, and then save the Excel file, and then the technician or the detailer can then just run and apply them actions. So if I just apply the actions, you will see that the action goes green. So if I close that down, and then what it will do is it will write that information into the column data. But while we have this information sitting in 365, what I thought we could do is take it a step further, and we could start to use Power BI to take this information. So if I launch Power BI desktop, so this allows me to graphically represent information in basically any way or any form that I want. And I'm going to use the BIM query document to provide the data for Power BI. So I'm going to use the get data, and I'm actually going to select the file via Excel, but use the desktop connector to read this file. So I go to 360 again, select my hub, select my project file, select my surgery, and then I can pick column info 2. So if I select it, it will then read that data direct into Power BI. So it will take just a brief second. I can specify the tabs or the columns, and if we just quickly look at the document I saved onto the desktop just to show you what it's reading, you can see it can read any of the information from these tabs. I'm going to keep it simple and just load in structural columns. So let's select just the structural column. You'll see it will do a quick preview. You'll see that's exactly what I'm going to get for the information, and I load it into Power BI. Now, I'm by far not an expert in Power BI, so I'm going to quickly try and create some graphs on the fly. First of all, I'm going to do a quick just a table just to represent the information that I have, and you can see that the columns load in. So if we click on a particular column, you will see that it will start to show and build up the information. So you can see as we start to tick the boxes on and off, you can see I got column 2, column 3. So if we go, I think, let's say column 14, we don't want that. And I'm just going to pick and choose. So I want the identity data, and I want the column. I also want the coating. I'm going to quickly try and find that via just the process of elimination, and you can see there I have it. So I don't want column 3. So there I've got a very simple chart showing me the column type, the mark, and then the coating. And I'm just going to select this chart and just filter it a little bit. You can see on column 2, I don't want to have obviously the family. I just want to have the beams that I need. So you can see there, just because I filter them straight away, it gives me the information. And then we may look at possibly filtering column 15. And you can see that we can control all the information in and out. That'll do for a quick little schedule. Just show me the columns and then their coating. And then if we add another, let's say a bar graph in, so let's add something like this, and we choose similar fields. So I say again, I want a column 2, and we'll want the coating as well. So we say 17, and then what we can do here is that we can control the values. So you can see there it's now starting to build up the values, or if I change it, I can say that I want column 2 as the count, and then we put 17 as the legend. So you can see some have got coating, some don't, or if we swap it round again. So we have something like that. And what I want to do in here is just change this so that's represented basically per percentage. What I want to show here is basically the percentage of what beam types are which. So you can see that this is showing me that this is the universal columns, and then if we select this, I should be able to, under the column, just ensure that I'm only getting the information that I want, and then up here under, I can then hopefully show value as a percentage. So you can now see that I can get that 50% of my columns are UCs, 25 are the UBs, and then I've got about 12.5% each for circular hollow sections. So we can have something like that, and you can just manipulate and use the data any way that you want. So now that we've taken the data out via BIM query into 360, loaded the data from 360 into Power BI, I can now put this back in to 360 graphically represented like this. So I'm going to save the Power BI desktop. I'm going to just save it to, so I'll just I'm just going to call this column info for 360. It saves it as a Power BI file. And once I've got that saved, I can then go and I can publish it onto the web version of Power BI. So I've saved my local file. I'm going to publish this out. I've signed in. I've got a workspace and then I've also got my Excitech consultant area, but I'm just going to load this onto my own workspace. So I've got column info for BIM 360. And then you can see it's successfully published. If I open my column info, this will now open it in the 360 area. If I expand my workspace, you can see there I've got my new report. If I select it, that will then give me the same information that I've got on my desktop version. Now the reason I went to the web version is that when I go to file, I can publish it to the web. So what this will do is it will create an embed code. And you can see I'm about to publish it. And the reason I want this, you can see, is you can link, you can send in an email. But if I copy that link, if we now go to 360 and we look at Project Home, with the ability for us to edit partner cards, I can now customize my home screen. So if I customize it, I can then select card library. And then if I just type in Power BI, there's a partner card for Power BI. I can add it, and what it looks for under the configure section is the URL. So if I just paste the URL from my web version, if I click save, fingers crossed, Power BI will now represent that data direct in 360 home screen. So when I click save, that information is then saved, and then I'm now directing 360 via the BIM query, looking at the data direct out of the Revit model. If I just expand this screen, you will now see that I'm in basically Power BI, where I can select this information. You can see it's all dynamic as I click the information. The graphs are changing to show me the information that I want. So I can minimize that back down. I can go to full screen. I can go back to 360. You can see that I have a share button, so I can actually share that out via Facebook, Twitter, all the standings. But you can also just click the information in here, so you can see you don't have to go full screen. Obviously, I think the better you are at Power BI, the more intelligent graphs you can obviously do. So that's pretty much it. It's the ability that we can get into the toolkit, use BIM query. All this information obviously sits in 360, and then it's just different workflows for how you can append and use that information back in the model. And then the beauty of it all is that if you publish the Power BI graphs, they're now direct in 360. So anyone with 360 can then see, configure, change. So I can go into focus, I can look in that bit, back to report. So it's quite dynamic the way that it works. I can focus on this one, select this area, see exactly what that information is, and then back to Project Home. And there you have it. Easy peasy. So that pretty much sums up today's 360 surgery. Join me again next week for surgery number 7, and we'll do some more cool stuff involving BIM 360.